Morning, Ralph.
Morning, Sam.
Hey, this is Paul Molinari, and we're clocking with Morning Sam, Morning Ralph, the podcast for restaurant technology professionals. And we've got a really super cool show today. We've got Cristal the Hunter Craven that's going to be with us, and she's going to be giving us a masterclass on partnerships because let's face it, restaurants do not operate in a silo. It literally takes a village, as a few people have been known to say in our industry. Restaurants are using anywhere between 12 and 20 or more different technologies to run their operation. And all of these things have to work together in order to fulfill their promise. So Cristal, welcome to the show. I'm so psyched to have you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And just a couple of words about Cristal's background, because she's a very modest woman, but I will toot her horn for her. She joined SynergySuite in 2022, bringing over 25 years of experience in the hospitality space. And she's done partnerships now for her reputation precedes her. She is literally known as the person you go to for partnership advice and just figuring out ways in which to work together. So also, I should mention, she's the co-founder of Worth, the Women of Restaurant Technology and Hospitality. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Cristal. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. This is exciting. I love talking about partnerships, my favorite topic.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, listen, this is episode 20. And so it's been an incredible year for popcorn. Just the simple fact that having been behind, marketing people have been behind the scenes all the time. It's always the partnership people and the sales people that are out there doing stuff. And I think now with podcasts and just the community in general now has more tools to kind of get together and ideate and share advice and and work together. So with that being the stage, let's talk about how you got into partnerships. I mean, how is it that it's so easy for you to connect with people?
Oh, I always say that my job is actually to make friends and keep them because my title is kind of long. And a lot of people don't understand what that means outside of our industry.
Yeah.
And I just think that's something that I've always been really passionate about. I grew up in a food family. My grandparents owned a Mexican food, spice, and chili company in East LA for 60 years.
Oh, wow.
And they supplied all of the restaurants in the greater LA region. And I spent a lot of my childhood going to visit their customers and just watching that. The way that my grandfather interacted with his customers, who are the restaurant owners, and just really how respectful and healthy that partnership was between them. And I had a lot of respect for that. Didn't expect to end up in the restaurant industry like most of us. One of my favorite things to do is talk origin stories, because how did you end up here?
Yeah.
No one said when I grow up, I want to be in restaurant tech, but yet here we always are. But yeah, I started out working in restaurants, managing and training, and then moved into restaurant tech when my kids were born and I couldn't stay up until 2 a.m. anymore. I had a husband in the military and was on my own a lot. So moved into restaurant tech, thought I'm going to be awesome at this. I use Aloha. I can sell it like a champ. Realized I knew absolutely nothing about the back end part of the technology. But 16, 17 years later, I kind of thought, try something new. POS was complicated. I thought, let's do something more complicated. Let's go to back office.
Right.
Why not? And ended up at SynergySuite as a sales exec. I loved the people. It's why I went there. It's such a good company. The people that work there are amazing. And I just wanted to work with them, right? Sometimes you take jobs because you want to work with the people there.
Yeah.
And ended up at SynergySuite. And we realized very quickly that we needed to really focus on partnerships for a multitude of reasons that I'm sure we'll get into. And it just felt like a natural role for me. So I've been doing it for about 2 years and I just love what I do.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. Yeah. SynergySuite, amazing company, great competitors, by the way. I competed with SynergySuite for almost a decade. Awesome stuff.
Sorry.
No, it was all good. You hit the nail on the head, though, with regard, because, back office, complicated, lots of moving parts, lots of different cogs in the machine. Can you explain for the audience, like, why the partnership role inside of a company like SynergySuite or really any other back office, or why is partnership such an important part of the equation?
Well, I think you have 2 ways to look at it. One is you're a vendor and you need to grow your business. And the traditional approach that a lot of vendors take is get somebody who right out of college, pay them 35 grand a year and tell them to make 100 calls a day.
Yeah.
And that's not how people buy. People buy by going to trade shows. That's a great place to do research. But mostly they buy by asking their friends who are in the industry, who do you like working with? Who is good to you? But they also ask their vendors. They ask their POS vendors. They ask their other favorite vendors, who do you like working with? Who do you partner well with? And that is a really big source of lead gen for a lot of
Mm.
companies, much more than having somebody make 100 calls and just hope that someone will set a meeting with them, right? And especially people who haven't been in our industry. So that's just from a pure revenue standpoint why partnerships are so important. 40% of our pipeline comes from partnerships directly, and the other portion's really highly weighted on trade shows. That's where we spend a lot of our efforts. But from a technical standpoint, to your point, nobody exists in a silo. You have to work with your partners, and customers don't know what to ask. Even if they're
Right.
really technically skilled, the question is usually so basic. Do you integrate with XYZ? And then you say, yes, we integrate with XYZ. And they go, great, check that off the list on the RFP. Let's move on. But that's never the case. There's always so much more to what those integration and those technical relationships are. And you really need a good quarterback who can help manage that between partners and internally at your company. And I think that's why it's so important.
Yeah, that's right. The idea of having a quarterback that can help those conversations along too, right? I mean, and sometimes the partnership role I found is you may have a stronger partnership person on one technology side than on the other technology side. And you really need to rely, you start to, I think the brands will rely on whomever the strongest is to solve as many problems as they can. Well, what can you do about these other techs? And so just by the simple fact that part of your role is to be a quarterback, is to help shepherd these things along, make the connections. You've probably find yourself having inside of a lot of conversations that maybe you didn't bank on when you first started talking to these brands.
No, not at all. I didn't expect it simply because the conversations I have can range everything from multi-month projects working with new POS partners. I mean, those are pretty big integrations for us, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of stages around that. But even looking at strategic partners, and that's something that I'd love to talk about because we have strategic partners that have nothing to do with our technology. Some of
Hmm.
them are strategic from the standpoint of we both compete against entities that have both products, right? So, for
Okay.
example, we've done events with Patronics. We don't integrate with Loyalty, but they have a competitor that is owned by the competitor that we have. So, let's meet up. Let's do some contact sharing. But also strategic partnerships in the sense of I never thought I would be partnering with companies that help resource manage for the brand specifically. So we can do everything we can to have a great product, have the right integrations, have right technical partnerships. But then what you find is a lot of brands are too busy to complete projects on their own. So partnering with companies that help resource management for brands, there's no technical relationship. They are just helping the brands get their projects finished faster was something that I never really expected to be a part of my ecosystem, but it's a
Yeah.
very strong part now.
That's really interesting, actually. So you're working with there are companies out. You feel free to say company names. We can name
Sure.
names
Yeah.
here.
So I love 5 and 5. They are just one, they're cool people, right? And
Yeah.
and quite frankly, that's my number one requirement for a partner is do I want to talk to you regularly? Because if I don't, it's going to be hard. I don't have a good game face and you'll know. And so it's and I am really low filtered. So what I love about 5 and 5 is the way that if you are trying to roll out Synergy Suite, there's a lot of work that the company has to do that we can't do for you, right? We have a great
Right.
implementation team, but you need to put your recipes in. We need to understand all of your mapping for your accounts. I mean, there's so many different pieces of implementing back office, but every single person in that company, be it HR with the people part of it, supply chain, culinary, they all have day-to-day jobs. And a lot of times, as much as they want to get to the finish line with the project, They
Yeah.
just don't have the time. So partnering with companies like 5 and 5 or Honor Built or CIS, who are all people we work with, they can really come in and help manage that piece for the customer. They understand our technology enough to help it get there. It's a lot more effective than hiring somebody to be in that role full
And this is a
time.
relatively new trend, sorta, kinda,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it really is. I mean, they've only been around, I think, 3 or 4 years, and their
Yeah.
growth has been exponential. And they started with loyalty. I mean, that was a big part of what they did, but it's just such a smart service. It's like we don't need more technology, we need more people to help us
We nee
implement it.
Oh my god, from your lips to God's ears. I mean, that's really well, that you gotta give me something to do too. I like tech. I wanna keep
Yeah.
talking about tech, but you're right. It takes people to
Yeah.
make it happen. And so on that note, from your perspective, what makes a successful tech partnership? Is it the people? Is it the technology? What are the ingredients?
I was thinking about this the other day, and I wanna say something that's incredibly intelligent, and
Okay, I know you have
of
it in you.
use a lot of really big words, but bottom line is play nicely in the sandbox, don't bus chuck. Don't make your problems the customer's problems. Work collaboratively to the same goal of taking care of your customer. I mean, everything else sort of falls underneath that, and I
Yeah,
think that is really the key piece. I mean, there's a lot of other parts. There's sometimes with us, the way that we've built our menu database might be a little different than the POS's modifier database, right? So we're
right.
going to have to meet in the middle. We're going to have to determine what's the easiest way to get a cashier to run through the menu flow from a speed of service standpoint while still doing accurate inventory depletion. And sometimes those things kind of butt heads with each other. But if you're taking those conversations offline and not having to involve the customer because it's really about the way that you're setting up your systems and trying to find solutions that work for both of you, that's a good partner. And then you come back to the customer and you say, "Hey, we have a couple of solutions. This is what we think is going to work." And you get their buy off on it. And the customer goes, "Wow, thanks for not pulling me into 5 hours of conversations about something that is your problem, not mine." Right. And I think that's really important.
Well, yeah, it's true. I think in our industry, it kind of always comes back to it's hospitality, stupid. It's let's act the same way that treat others the way that we expect to be treated ourselves.
Yeah, much.
So there, I'm finding there are a lot of different tools out there now too. Never mind the companies that have sprouted to help integrations and partnerships hum along. But now, do you find yourself inside of what kind of tools are you using to communicate with vendors, with brands, with other partners? Are you inside of their Slack?
Hmm. Very much. That's actually a really big one for us. We maintain Slack channels with all of our partners, and they're so useful. I mean, sometimes it's a technical question that you can go to that channel versus having to go through this typical support channels which a lot of people have. And not every partner has like an API support or a partner support. A lot of times it'll go through the standard support channel with your customer tickets as well. So having something where you can just get a quick answer, but we have Slack channels where we do things like, "Hey, I have a customer I might want to send your way. Do you have this piece of functionality or can you help me solve this problem? Or do you have any advice on how to handle this from your standpoint?" So Slack is just such an easy way to communicate interdepartmentally between sales and dev and every other thing
Yeah,
that you need to do. We also, for us, from a project implementation standpoint, invite our customers into our project management software. There's often pieces that involve them that we want to have exposure so that they understand like the overall scope of what we need to do and kind of
mhm,
how our work with them can create a backlog and other steps that we need to take. And then there's some really interesting go to market tools, which I'm not really on board with yet, but I do know that a lot of people use them. So Crossbeam, Reveal, account mapping.
yeah.
We're a small team. I would love somebody to be able to spend time on that. But I am so old fashioned. I pick up the phone. I pick up the
Well,
phone.
I think you can overcomplicate things. What
Yeah.
technology being overcomplicated?
No.
You've worked with many partners, and what's some of the things that kind of separate the good ones from the meh ones? Is it the ones that don't complicate things, or is it it's just the ones that are available? I mean, what's the secret sauce to a good partnership?
I think mutual respect and mutual goals are a really big part of it. And
Yeah.
I had such an excellent experience going through a POS integration, and who says that, right? Like I had such a great experience when we rolled out Friendlies with Bricks Holdings. There was a piece where this is a legacy brand, so we needed to ask the POS partner in that case to give us an enormous amount of data. And we thought it was a simple ask, but it wasn't. It was a huge call load for them. And so they came back and they just said, let's figure out a way to make this work. Let's be organized. Let's put this on a schedule. We'll do data dumps, historical data over time. And it was very inconvenient for them, but they understand the value of it and they were willing to do the work. And they just put some boundaries and parameters around how to interact with that and put it on a schedule. And that was incredibly respectful. Sure, we'll do it that way. That works for us. And then as we moved through, we had regular calls with them. And then we would go to the customer with our shared findings. It was just such a really great partnership experience,
Yeah.
multi threaded. It worked well. And at the end of the day, we were able to roll out the customer in a small amount of time. They were very happy. As a matter of fact, we won best customer service at their annual conference this year. I mean, that says a lot
Congratulations.
about, thanks. That says a lot about the type of partner we were to everybody else in their ecosystem and how we worked out, but it also got them to the finish line faster because of that. And
Yeah.
I don't think I sent enough. I mean, I probably sent 20 just emails saying, thank you. Thank you for making this easy for us to do our job and respecting the fact that we have a role to play here too. And the customer has chosen to work with us as well. It was just
Yeah.
such a really positive experience. And it isn't always like that.
No, it isn't always like that. And but it's a two-way street too, right? So
Yeah.
you do need a client that is communicative.
Yeah.
And so it's not just what are the partners that you're working with to make this happen and the client gets away scot-free. They literally have to put an equal and sometimes perhaps even more effort behind it because there are stakeholders behind the scenes that you never even get to see.
I think you're allowed to tell people they're behaving badly.
Hmm.
I really do. I mean, the customer is always your priority,
Yeah,
but they're not always treating you the way that is effective in your working relationship. And I think
right.
you're allowed to set some boundaries with everybody involved in the process that are fair and respectful. But
Yeah.
I think that's valid because being pitted against each other never works. And I don't like playing that game. And I
No,
think
well,
it's
but
fair to
that's
say
the
that.
thing. I think the reason why you're successful and why other partner professionals are successful is because you can play that role, right? You
Yeah.
can do that. You can speak your mind and they'll
Sure.
respect you for it because you're the expert. You're the one, you've done this. It's the vendor, pardon me, the brand is not, it's not their day job to make sure all of the parties are happy and moving smoothly
No.
and like they have their responsibilities. They're really kind of banking on you to be that back to the quarterback.
Yeah,
Right.
very much.
Yeah. But yeah, you have every right in the world to put your fist down and say, "Oh, hey, knock it off."
I think I think if you say it with a smile and with a certain
Yeah.
amount of respect, you can get away with a lot
Yeah.
more than you think. People I mean, the whole flies and honey thing is so true, and I sometimes
Yeah.
I hear people speak, I'm like, "Come on, guys, there's such a better way to do this."
There was a comedian on the other day that I'm in Boston, and there was this guy that was making fun of New Englanders, and he was saying, "The one thing you say to your kids is like, knock it off. Hey, knock it off." And
Mhm.
then you say to them, "Oh, keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up. Knock it off. Keep it up. Go ahead. Keep it up."
Oh, I would have loved that. My dad was from New York, so I got a very similar upbringing in terms of how things were said to me. One of the things my dad said to me all the time, which is actually a Bill Belichick quote, but he said it in his own way when I was younger, was do your job. And that's I mean, I love these 3-word missives, right? Like you don't need to say too
Right.
much. Just do your job, knock it off, keep it up. Like you'll see, like they're effective. So do your job. That's my
Do your
favorite thing. I tell
job.
my kids that all the time. Do your job.
Speaking about doing our jobs, and one of the things that I love about this space is that it is always changing, and you seem to always have to be on top of it. Just to right now, naturally, of course, we're talking about AI, and I don't think that that's the bright shiny object. I personally think that is the game changer. That is, and when you're, how much now are you are you running into AI solutions and how much of your time now is being spent in some ways maybe even fielding calls from AI companies and new technology companies out there that want to partner with you and your company and their AI. They're new on the block. They don't necessarily even know what's up, but they know that you're a player.
Sure, I do get those a lot. First of all, I can say just because you can build it doesn't mean you should.
Hmm.
So I get a lot of calls from companies that have very microscopic point solutions that have a cost attached to them that don't really solve anything. They're super cool, but you're not solving my customers' problems. It doesn't make sense. And then internally, when it comes to AI, I mean, we're doing some really great things with machine learning and AI, depending on how you want to call it, and depending who in my company doesn't want me to say AI versus machine learning.
Right.
We're actually doing a webinar on this in January, but we're doing a lot with that. And our goal around utilizing that tool is to make operators' lives easier. Magic, right? Like, who thought that would be something they need? How can you make their day to day operations easier? And the companies that are out there utilizing new technology to do exactly that
Hmm.
genuinely make their lives easier. Not, hey, once you become a computer scientist and also a restaurant manager, you will then have an easier life 3 years from now. I'm talking about things that are like actionable. And now there's some really great stuff out there. There's also a lot of junk. There's also people who have no business using AI. Like, it's not something they need for their product. And we talk a lot about who we should partner with. We have some new partners specifically in that area. And with the number one goal, is this easily adoptable? Do you make a manager's life easier? Does it make the business more profitable? And those are pretty easy parameters for us when we determine who we're partnering with and what products we want to bring to market ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. I think that if you're thinking about for companies trying to break into this space, you really kind of have to answer those core questions, right?
Yeah.
And then prove to companies like yours and others in the space that play significant roles inside of a restaurant stack. What do they bring to the equation where, yeah, of course, the vendor benefits, pardon me, the brand benefits. How do we benefit as well? And is there a path forward where we can be doing even more together in the future? I was wondering, one of the things that looking on some of our show notes today.
Oh.
Yeah. No, well, we like to talk about trends here. Trends
Mhm.
are an important part of the technology conversation. And there are trends inside of technology partnerships too. And
Yeah.
in 3 to 5 years, right? That's like a lifetime from now. But are there any trends in restaurant tech partnerships that you see playing a key role in how things shape up?
Yeah, actually, I do. And I don't think I'm smart enough to really know how to forecast what that looks like technically, but I know what the need is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're in the
Um,
right room here.
I remember selling Aloha 16 years ago. We had a set of products that you could use, right? You could use our loyalty or our gift card program. And if you were an enterprise, you had a couple different tools. And we rolled out some more over the years. But then we had integrations that we built early on with the early players in the game, right? So, and the integrations were built for them. And if anybody new wanted to integrate with us, they could spend 25,000 on SDK kit, right? And then you'd go through the whole
Oh,
process. Yeah, this is a thing. Right. And so we had a lot of calls all the time. Hey, we're this new product. Hey, we're building apps because that wasn't a thing yet. Great, buy an SDK. All of that went the wayside once you started looking at cloud based systems with SaaS, right? So now you're looking at cloud, but you're looking at a monthly cost. And now you have APIs being kind of the norm. And now you have open APIs and now you have better APIs. And so I think we've done a really good job of allowing our technology partners to work with each other. And now the trend is monetization of APIs, which I'm not a huge fan with, but I understand the business need of it, right? APIs are expensive to maintain and build and support over time. But it would be so nice.
wait, so certain vendors are charging now for access to
Oh,
the
like
APIs?
so many. We don't, by the way, but so many, so many. But what the problem is if you're monetizing your API, you have multiple vendors utilizing, that's a great revenue stream for you, but as it gets passed on to the customer, it just increases spend overall. And the problem with the restaurant industry is that our margins are so low, right? I mean, I have family members that work in aerospace, that work in healthcare, and they are just printing money for development. They have great technology. And they're always like, oh, your technology is so old. And I'm like, nobody wants to pay for it. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. You get what you pay for. But I think the way that we exchange data between companies, there's something coming next, right? I mean, just APIs, because it just gets messy and clunky, to your point, with people having 12 to 15. And I think a better way of managing data distribution um, is on the horizon. I think Omnivore tried, right? They tried to
Yep.
be that middleware, they tried to be that integrator, and there was a very big need for that because they were really responding to legacy systems and what needed to be done within legacy systems, and it just wasn't needed anymore, but the idea was right, right? Like, can you have sort of this centralized middleware marketplace for data exchange and easier integration? And right now, everything's just a one-off, right? You integrate with them, you integrate with them, you integrate with them. It'd be great to have some sort of like awesome little bubble of data that makes it very easy and very fast for everyone to integrate and exchange data in and out. And I'm waiting for
Maybe
somebody to
AI
make
will be
that.
part of that.
Maybe it'd be great. I mean, what if I could just go to that when I'm onboarding a new customer and like easily pull clean, scrubbed historical data for the last 5 years for that customer so we could do good analysis? What if I could just interact I mean, who's going to host it? Who's going to own it? Who's going to build it? I don't know. I'm just talking magic. But if we have something like that, it would be amazing. What if every single payroll company that starts with Paychex, Paycom, Paylocity, PayPay could very easily integrate with us for HR sync and time data without us having to build everything as a one-off? That is what I want to see next. Somebody go build it for me, please.
I love it. I love it. And I love and this is why, as a back office, back of house company like SynergySuite, your world is crazy. Accounting systems, and it's just like all over the place. Everybody needs to
Mhm.
connect. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it can get nuts. All right, we're going to take a quick break. This has been awesome. When we get back, Crystal's going to debunk some myths for us.
Uh-oh.
So we'll be back in two shakes.
Thanks.
And welcome back to Morning Sam, Morning Ralph, the podcast for restaurant technology professionals. Today, I'm with Cristal Craven. She is an absolute machine when it comes to partnerships. She's teaching us a master class here, folks. I hope you're getting as much out of it as I am. All right, we come to the part of the show that's my favorite part, and that is hate to tell you, but. And this is an opportunity for you, Crystal, to bust a myth, bust a misconception, right or wrong. Tell me about, give me a hate to tell you about standalone tech and partnerships.
Yes. I mean, I deal with this all the time, right? And I also get calls asking, like, how do I build a partnership program? How do I build a partnership team? And here's the things that don't work. So stop doing them. Don't hire as many BDRs. Like, invest in your partnerships and invest in those relationships, whether it is having like a really great technical relationship or working on combined thought leadership, go to market, do events together, like make friends and keep them. Do that. Stop hiring people to make 100 calls. I had one of my BDRs when we still had a BDR team get the CEO of a large company on the phone, and the guy tore him to pieces.
Oh my.
It's not a good strategy. Stop talking about spiffs. I understand the value of them, trust me. However, I am not going to make a partnership with you so that my sales reps can make an extra $150 every time they recommend the wrong product to the wrong person. If there is a value in it, it makes sense. If there's a rev share in it, but don't lead with that. I mean, it's sloppy. Don't lead with that. It doesn't come off well. Like, talk about
Right.
how we can invest in each other. And if there's a reason to like give each other a little pat on the back for making a referral, awesome. But don't make that the reason you do it. So stop with the spiffs. I'm so tired of those conversations. Ask yourselves if you need to build or if you need to partner. It is probably just as hard to do one or the other. So if a product is going to sideline your core product or what you're trying to do as a technology, partner, don't build. Find a way to have better APIs and partner with these products. Your tiny percentage of that market share isn't going to be worth not being as good at it as somebody else could be. That's a
I
big
love it.
one.
That's absolutely huge. I love it. Listen, on this show, we also like to name names. So obviously, Synergy Suite's got a killer partnership program. Give me two or three other companies that you think have a really great partnership program.
Well, I know that they're not doing a lot right now, but Revel had a great partnership program. Michael
Mm,
Manlapis was our VP of partnerships, and he ran such a strong team, Stephen Lee was an amazing asset there. Yeah, totally. Right. Everyone loves Slee. I don't know. They just did it right. Right. They had all the resources and they just approached everything incredibly well. I loved working with them. We have a good relationship, like I said, with 5 and 5. I mean, that is just an
yeah,
asset, people you should know and you should work with.
yeah,
In terms of build versus partner, we're partnering with a lot of AI tools like Nomad Go or TimeForge and other problem solvers that do a really good job of partnering with you. Q has been a wonderful partner to us. I mean, we started out with our first really large enterprise client together and built a lot. So almost like we grew up together a little bit, and they have just done such amazing things, but they really think of us and we obviously think of them. Against shared Slack channel, resources, go to market. That's a really big part of it. So those are the people that I interact with on a regular basis that I just really love spending time
yeah,
with because I think they do a great job. And then there's some really great people that I just know personally at par. So maybe not the larger part of the partnership structure, but just the people that I'm able to work with that do the kind of things I want. They're good people. They do the right thing for the customer. Dan Costello is one of my favorite people on the planet. I think he's just an
yeah.
amazing guy.
And these are just great people to partner with. Even just if you're
Yeah.
seeking advice, they're very willing to provide, to give up some of their time to be resources, right?
And they'll never do you dirty.
Yeah. Well,
That's I mean,
I like that.
that's
Although I like to be done dirty every once in a while. No, just kidding. All right.
not in business. And then another thing with tech partners in terms of what they're not doing right is stop doing all your marketing by yourself. Do combine thought leadership, do go to market strategies, do combine case studies. Like stop
How about
existing
all right,
in
all
a
right. Well, let
silo.
me get on my thing. How about
Okay,
do
go.
something different for Christ's sake? Can we do something different?
I
Let's do something different, people.
Yeah, I mean, stop just thinking about yourself. Stop thinking about yourself. Stop being so selfish. Like, work with your partners and be good partners and like tell everybody that you're great partners to each other because that's what your buyers want to hear is that you are good partners to each other. They want to do business with that. So, those are some of my very passionate ideas about how to be a good partner and what people who are building a new program can do differently.
Terrific. And I think on that note, why don't we close this out with, can you just tell us how can, so for all of these other vendors alike, how do they get in touch with you? How do they learn more about SynergySuite? Tell us how we can find you.
Well, we embody an incredibly easy nomenclature. So everything's first dot last name at SynergySuite. So you can always reach out to me. I mean, LinkedIn is always a hub. And then go to our website, synergysuite.com. There's some great information on there about who we partner with, first of all, our partner page, but also what we do. I mean, we are comprehensive back of house platform. So you're looking to streamline your operations, have less language and technology and logins and new products that need to be learned to run your back office from inventory to labor to analytics, cash management, HACCP and food safety. We're a really great product for that and have some pretty exciting things coming out in 2025 for our roadmap. And again, we give great customer service. We have the award to prove it. So if you're looking for a company that's going to treat you well, that you need that technology for your back office, come talk to us. We would love to be friends.
Beautiful. All right. Cristal, this has been fantastic. Everybody, if you enjoyed this episode, I plead with you, make sure that you subscribe. Find us on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast fix. Tell your friends in the restaurant industry. This is Morning Sam, Morning Ralph. We are clocking out. Thanks, Cristal.
Thanks.